Alrighty, what's going on, everybody? Apologies for the little bit of a late start. If you didn't see my community post, I had a little bit of a water issue downstairs, which I was hoping was not going to result in much of anything, and of course it ended up resulting in absolute worst case scenario for me. I ended up having to basically get rid of everything out of that room, and only really lost some decorative paneling. So, you know, it could have been worse. But they're basically going to have to come out and do a flood cut and pull everything out of that room. So everything is kind of a mess. And in the transition, I lost my microphones. So it was kind of a scramble to find them, but we found them. So anyways, today we're going to actually work on some night owls for the rebels. I mentioned last week that we would maybe do some basing, but with how much glue and layering and everything that goes into that, unless I wanted to basically pre-base a bunch of stuff and have it ready to go and then just paint it, then maybe. But that didn't make any sense to me. So I did end up finding or getting some epic basing bits, STLs, and printed out a bunch of ferns and just painted them up some different greens. Let me grab some examples for you. I'll actually grab the two sets of rebels that you guys watched me paint. So we did end up printing out a bunch of these. One second. Let me unlock that. So basically every model, give or take, got a fern. We went back through, changed out all the tufts, and added a bunch of those fallen leaves. So if you want to replicate this kind of aesthetic, basically what I was doing was I will pick some rocks, some sticks, some whatever I want to do. I'll pick out my fern leaf. I'll glue the fern leaf down first, and then I'll basically coat it in wood glue, put the rock, put the sticks, put whatever else on, dunk it in this just like whatever grit dirt just as a base. Once that's dry, I'll do another layer of grass that is primarily like a brownish block color. And then once that's done, I'll take the Elmer's glue, put a couple dots around, decide if I'm going to do tufts or not. And then I'll get some Mod Podge or whatever and decide where I'm going to put my leaves, which in these guys' case is most coverage. I think it presents pretty well on something like this. Kind of get a better idea of the style or whatever. But I really liked the coloring and everything. So at this point, I have redone almost all my rebels. I have 2 units of veterans, but to be honest, with the changes to veterans, I don't know if I care at all to deal with them. I have 1 more unit of veterans that I am going to do just so it's cohesive. And these guys, which is what we're working on today, which this was my 1 test model. I hate the flight stands. So I wanted to get rid of them, and I figured I would use cork and coat it in a bunch of coats of glue to try to get it a little bit more rigid. But I wanted them to be a little more dynamic, but still make use of their posing. So this is what we're going with. I still have to paint the base rims. I figure I'm just going to do all that at the same time. But that's my test subject today, because I am going to be recording separate parts for a video I've already recorded some parts for doing this, and a little bit more of a step-by-step sense. But like this one's probably gonna get a Bo-Katan-esque paint job, and then we've got Casca and Axe woves. So those three are gonna be for that. This will probably be my video subject, most likely. So today, we're gonna paint this really oddly posed mini, which I kind of hate it, I'm not gonna lie, but it's fine. I do kind of want to try a non-metallic metal for this sword, which I've never done. I don't know if I'm going to do that in this stream or not, but we'll see. I also really need to keep an eye on this microphone, specifically because of the whole situation. I didn't really have a whole lot of time to charge them, and since I have lost track of one of them, I don't know if this is the one that I used for our Halloween stream or not. So worst case, I will just unplug the little receiver and we're just going to use whatever audio we get. So I will do my best to keep an eye on that, but I apologize if I just go silent at some point. It's been a stressful couple days. Anyways, where's my trusty foot? Trusty foot. So basically with this, I'm using speed paint for the undersuit and speed paint for the leather, and then we're base coating all the armor essentially. So we're going to start with base coating this light suit, and what is weird, and I only know this from doing the actual Bo-Katan costume for my fiance, is that this line right here is actually an armor piece that is up under that, which is different from the holsters on this guy that looks like leather. These are shaped like the actual hip plates. They're just not super obvious. So, interesting. But we're going to base coat our flight suit with some Grim Black speed paint. I've been trying this brush that I bought like ages and ages and ages ago. It's just some crap off of Amazon. So we're using that today. Which, this brush is what I did the entirety, other than these tiny little night owl symbols. I don't even know if those are gonna show up. I did the entirety of that with this one brush. And I don't know what color I want to go with the cape yet. I don't know if I want to go with a color or just go with like a gray or maybe a tan. Tan could be good, but we'll see. We'll probably do that last, give or take, just so we can get a better idea of, you know, what we're working with. All right, speed paint, here we go. A little more watery than I would want it to be. Need to get like a little baby miniature holder so I could put my like reference for you guys up on the side. I mean, I guess I could just add the picture that I have as a source, but I didn't think about that until right now. And I'm probably going to go a little bit more predominantly gray on this one, which I don't really have any real rhyme or reason to the color scheming on most of this. And that's kind of the joy of painting anything Mandalorian. This is kind of up to you. Now you could pick a scheme, kind of like I have. So I've got blues, grays. There's even some dark grays, but I'm not going with the super dark like Axe Woves gray. Even on him, he's probably just going to be a slightly darker gray, just so it's a little more cohesive. But in this case, like this guy, I just kind of picked what I want. So he just ended up mostly blue with some gray. So I figured Casca is going to be predominantly blue, if not entirely blue. I think her armor is. So this person can be predominantly gray. Oh, there's a little bit of confusion in the sculpt. It's like there's two straps on the back of the leg and one on the front, but I kind of feel like the sculpt, it's just got a little bit weird there. And even though this is just a unit, I am trying to take my time and paint them up as good as I can. Even though it's gonna take a little while. Especially once I get to the named characters. Casca is not going to be that big of a deal, I don't think. But Bo-Katan's going to be some work, I think. don't know what that song just was, but it was not good. Also, side note on the TV show watching front, I've talked about it a couple times. I watched all of Barbarians on Netflix. Now, I watched it with the English dub. I tried watching parts of it in German and then just reading the subtitles. I couldn't. I know that's like sacrilege to some people. I don't know. I just couldn't. So I watched it with the dub, and I actually really enjoyed it. I don't know if there's going to be a third season. That's my biggest complaint, is that it was so short. But it was really, really good. I'll get to that in just a second. Now on this guy, I left his little armbands a dark gray, but this almost is like part of the flight suit. So I think, and because I'm going to do her predominantly gray, I'm just gonna hit the whole arm here. But in talking about shows, I was looking for something else in a similar vein, and I saw Norseman on Netflix. I was like, oh, this is relatively new, from like 2020 or something. I was like, oh, we'll give this a shot. It looks pretty good. Like visually, it looks, not like super low budget or anything. My God, was I wrong. It's like a parody show of Vikings and those kinds of shows. I did watch the whole first episode, and it was interesting, but I don't know if I could watch the whole thing. We'll see on that front, but yeah, it sucks. I thought I was gonna find another, high budget, not even high budget, just decent, medieval type show to watch, and boy, was I wrong. What's up, Annie? But yeah, one episode in, I do not recommend Norsemen, if you like medieval and Viking shows, but Barbarians was very good. I am eagerly waiting for the third season, especially with how the second season ended. So definitely worth watching that one. Again, as much as I want to just speed paint this sword in something, I'm gonna try not to. Partially why I am hesitant. Let's talk about it for a second. Part of why I'm hesitant to try a non-metallic metal for the first time is because I feel like it would be relatively easy to get a decent result with a sword that is split traditionally, like down the middle. But this sword, you can probably see it has a little baby blade edge, and it is mostly flat. And I don't know how to visualize that, really. So I think if I do, I'll just put a light spot up here on the curve and maybe a light spot down at the bottom of the base of the blade, and that'll be my initial starting point, or my first attempt. But I just don't know, because I couldn't find any reference images to even try to replicate that has such a tiny little blade edge on it. So we'll see. Not really gonna see the underside of that arm, but it's kind of accessible, so we'll just hit it. I do, well, as I kind of want to paint the vest portion of this a different color, because Axe Woves is going to end up with a different color vest, but it is kind of hard to make out in there, and actually doesn't really look like there's a distinguisher between a vest and like the flight suit. So I think I'm just gonna black the whole jumpsuit in. We'll just take that on a case-by-case basis, because worst case it ends up with Axe Woves being the only person with a colored vest, and that is fine. Which this is kind of hard to get to, I'm not gonna lie. I'm just gonna try to get into that, to the left of this chest. No. Okay, I'm just trying to get a little tiny bit of color in between those panels on the chest. That's all right. I think I got most of that side. The rest of it's kind of in shadow. These did get zenithalled, so thankfully a lot of that will still be dark if I can't really reach it, and that's fine. Okay. That is that. Let's go ahead and hit that visor. Trying to think of precisely the order that I went in for the first one, because it worked pretty well on the first guy. It's funny just how much easier painting something like a visor has gotten over the last, year or so. And that's the nice thing about Mandalorians, to be honest, is if you wanted just to leave these white and black, like just blacking in the jumpsuit and then maybe hitting the holsters with a brown, you could easily leave them just like this and they would be fine. Let's go with, I think I did the brown last. So let's go with some gray, shall we? Now, this old buddy that I still don't entirely know how to use, set up better than it was the last time. So I picked up 2 colors for these guys specifically, and that is uniform gray, which I probably could have gone with a darker gray, but I think this one is okay. Mainly because I already had a light gray. Granted, this is kind of like a brown gray in a weird way. But my plan was this. So we just have 2 blues for the armor and 2 grays for the armor. And then Nuln Oil over the whole thing. Then we'll do some sponging. I don't think I want to do sponging exactly the way that I did here, so we'll just have to see. So let's get and I probably had speed paints that would work, but considering I wanted to do some like the gray on the leg and the splitting of the knees and stuff, it's kind of hard to do that with speed paints because they're so runny, they just want to get everywhere. Also notice this with these paints. I do want to get a bigger set of these war paints. I just like the naming convention of these. I think they're easy to read. If you want like a specific triad of colors without having to mix, you know, you can easily get that. I really like that system. So if I wanted, you know, a mid-tone, a highlight, and a dark, you could easily pick out those 3 colors and you don't have to worry about mixing anything like that. So for somebody like myself, who is maybe not the best color mixer in the world, works pretty well. Okay, so I think I want to do kind of like a inverse of how I did these legs. So this might just end up being kind of an opposite of this guy, to be honest. So and it is kind of funny, the gray that I picked up is very similar in shade to the gray that I ended up with in the Zenithal in some spots. I know you guys can't see this. I can barely see this. I do think I'm going to do that whole little, well, it's kind of striped in the same way. So we'll just hit the sides of these little foot panels, and then we'll come back and hit the tops of them. And that's partially why I'm saying I kind of wish I'd gone with a darker gray, because you can kind of see that compared to white, how similar that is. I did have the slightly darker gray in this range. I just thought it would be too dark, and then I didn't want it to get like super dark once the known oil came in. So I erred on the side of caution, and it is just a little too bright, but that's okay. Because this gray works a little bit better to do some edge highlighting with that light gray that I already have. So I'm not gonna lose my mind trying to get the bottom of that knee pad because you just can't see it. If you can't see it, you can't care about it legally. Okay. I am going to try to hit those little bits of the thigh pad, I think, with a darker gray. I might have to mix up a darker gray for that specifically, and that's fine. But I do want those hips to be a little different than everything else. Now, I think I want to go blue collar. Don't know if I want both parts of this breastplate to be gray or not. So I have been able to get away with one coat of this gray in most cases, but it looks like this chest piece is a little bright, so I might have to do a second pass of that. Although a little bit of fading is almost kind of like a highlight because it is mainly on the top of the chest. Interesting. I'm going to wait to paint this little middle ab section just because I think that might look kind of interesting blue just to break it up. But we'll come back and we'll see. Also, it doesn't help that if I don't talk for long enough that this microphone will just go to sleep. So I'm going to try to stop that from happening on occasion, even if I don't really have anything to say about what I'm doing, because I am just base coding. You guys know what this is, probably. Which again, I've been trying to work in a little bit more of this style of painting. Just because it's good to learn things on occasion. Trying to get an idea of how I want to do this helmet, and I think I want to check some references just to see how the female helmets are kind of painted, because there's not as clear of dividing lines. So like the bottom, kind of the bottom half and the top are separate. That's about it. But it looks like most everything that I'm going to see is going to be like Casca or Bo-Katan. Then I got to paint the little baby marks on the forehead. I think I might just split the helmet in half. So we go blue all along the bottom, and then go gray for the primary. Do I want to start introducing black into these? I kind of don't want to do that. But because of this weird bracket, it's like separate from both halves of the helmet. But then it kind of connects on the side. So, I don't know. Let's, so we can kind of get a good idea. Let's come back to the gray. Let's go ahead and hit the blue on the bottom half of that helmet. That'll kind of give us a little bit of an idea of kind of what we're going to be looking at. Which these war paint bottles seem really hard. It's like these have a little bit more give to them. I don't know, that's just me. Okay. Trying to bring that right up to that edge. I just wipe it off the face. There we go. I really like this blue. It goes on really good. Again, for somebody who is not the most proficient with thinning and all that good stuff, that is nice. I am getting there. I already noticed a difference doing these as far as the consistency. I think I was not thinning enough previously because I was worried about thinning it too much, I think. And this blue also does a pretty good job at covering on the first pass, so I'm not even going to bother with a second coat on that color because I just don't think I even need it. Now, I don't hate that split, but I kind of like the idea of going tritone on the head, but then I feel like it's going to end up very Bo-Katan-y. Oh, let's see. No. That is one. It's not awful. Because right now, well, I could go white. You just leave the face as is and paint the upper half of the head. Granted, I don't believe I'd be able to slice that line quite straight enough. But again, we'll come back to that. Let's hit some more of this blue. I think I've got that thin a little too much. Granted, it kind of feels like you're playing chicken when it comes to thinning. It's like how far are you going to push it? Because the further you can push it, the better. Okay. Oh yeah, go with blue hands. Too thin paint blue hands. I know people feel some sort of way about buying like paint sets and stuff and mixture colors and all that stuff, but man, I am just not good at it. And I will say these two colors is kind of like a test run, at least, of the Fanatics paints. I really like them, so I definitely want to get some more so I can continue on this journey of traditional acrylic painting. For sure this little flap up here is probably supposed to be part of the flight suit coming out from under that. I'm painting it blue anyways, so I can get a little bit more blue into this, I think. But I was so happy with the kind of the first test. It'll probably all work out. I am pretty happy with that neckline, I think. And I don't want to go too heavy on the blue, white, and gray, because I want that to be kind of what makes Bo-Katan stand out, is the fact that she has white on her face. So thinking we just go gray all over the helmet and maybe see about leaving that back rim white just out of curiosity. Worst case, we'll cover it up if we need to. Get some water over here. Okay, I don't like painting domes. Just because I feel like it's kind of hard to get coverage that you're looking for fast enough. Okay, now we bend a little too much. Sorry, I know you can't see that. That's fine. We can do a second coat over top of the head. I think I am going to leave that back rim white, especially because it'll get darkened down a little bit. And I am probably going to just paint the jetpacks all the same kind of style, just for simplicity's sake and because it works. So I don't want to have to paint all the bits of these. Kind of cheat the jetpacks a little. So we're just going to punch out these big panels blue. And because this gray is so close, I'm not going to bother really hitting much of this jetpack with the gray. And honestly, on this one, I might not hit any of it, just to see if there's really a point in kind of putting that effort forward, because I don't think you're gonna see it. Especially on this jetpack, because it's so teeny tiny. It's kind of crazy what actually thinning the paint to a usable consistency does. It doesn't dry out on your brush immediately. So much easier to apply. It looks better. Great. I didn't pick out those little side rockets on the other ones, but I figured again, since we're going with a little bit more gray. nice second coat on that, and might as well. I feel like that bottom portion wants to be blue, but just gonna go gray, blue, gray, blue. Yeah, we're just gonna go gray just because I don't want it to look super intentionally like different, you know. I'm gonna leave that little tiny bit right under the blue on the chest white or unpainted just because. Okay. So this character actually doesn't have anything to put the night owl symbol on. So I wonder if there's a bigger version of the head marking I can do, or is it all just the little eyes? I guess it's just the little eyes. And on the chests. Okay. Just gonna get the eyes then on the helmet. That's good. Kind of feel like this cape wants to be like red. That's kind of Death Watchy, I think. I feel like it needs, I mean, it's gonna have brown, which will help. We just stay the course with the white. And I'm not gonna Null and Oil the cape anyways, I don't think. I don't think it's gonna need it. So maybe we just let that sit. Let's see if we can't get a little bit of a dark gray to put on these hip plates, even though I don't think you're really even going to be able to see it. That's okay. And I don't really think even putting a color on these is worthwhile. I think you could absolutely just cover these with the brown for the leather, and nobody would probably ever notice. So, a good thing we did it. Okay. Now we gotta do the things on the forehead before we do unknown oil. Trying to get a good V start. Which now this brush already has a little hook in it that is causing issues. Yeah, the ones yesterday went so well, so easy. And now it's just awful. All right, let's cover this up. And use a different brush for this. I'll get that covered up in just a second. Yeah, well, I don't know, the tip of that brush looks like it's kind of okay and kind of not. I wonder if we could use we'll try that. It doesn't seem terrible. Nobody will ever know. Forgot I was gonna do a little second coat on that ab plate there. Okay. That is certainly not perfect, but I am certainly okay with it. Freehanding is definitely a skill being practiced. And I am curious, actually, if I could just touch up just a tiny little bit of that with some gray, just to sharpen up this end. So it's a little less chunky. Okay, I think that's good. I'm not gonna known oil the cape once that's done, so I don't have to worry about that. I don't want it on the leather. Okay, let's known oil the armor here so we can continue. Which, man, I wish I did not mess up my known oil container, because God, it's so hard. We'll start with it. This known oil does not make a massive difference. But I do want it a little heavy in some of the edges specifically, like on the boots or the gauntlets or the shins or whatever, to get a little bit more definition on the armor plate that's on the front of it compared to the side of it, just because that ridge isn't super obvious. Focus around that little thing right there. Kind of intentionally try to get it to pull in some of these spots. Another big spot is the gauntlets. A good opportunity to get a little more detail out of them. And it definitely helps to pull when you can perpendicular to the details you want it to actually get stuck on, because it'll kind of pull it off your brush. Okay. This big honking thing back here. That's all of that. Yeah. Let that dry for a minute or two. I don't really know how these were gonna come out. I just decided that I was gonna paint, trying to put together a kind of a usable Rebel list, just because I've never used them. And rebasing and getting them all kind of nice and new and reunified in a sense certainly helps kind of get me interested in using them. But I have Sabine, and I kind of wanted this unit for a little while, but again, I don't play Rebels, so I don't really pick up anything for Rebels. But these were on sale for like, I don't know, $22 or something, instead of like the typical 36 or 37 or whatever. So I figured now was as good a time as any. And I wanted to paint them up as Night Owls, specifically, just because I don't really care for Clan Wren. I don't have any attachment to them, but Night Owls are pretty cool. And because Sabine and Bo-Katan still have a whatever, retinue or whatever still kind of makes sense. So that's fine with me. So again, this is probably going to be Bo-Katan, which I think I'm going to just use straight gunmetal for like her breastplate or whatever to make it different. So she should look similar but different enough to distinguish her. I don't know if I want to go with the dark gray for Axe Woves or just go with the regular gray. I might go with just the regular gray. So he's kind of like a cameo to where he's, you know, like I'm gonna try to freehand the ring around his head. So he'll still look similar and he'll have the same like kind of general color scheme, but again, I do want the standout to be Bo-Katan, but also because the Clan Wren unit is just 3 units, it's perfect. Bo-Katan, Casca, and Axe all in their respective things. Another thing, we kind of talked about the cork rocks or whatever with this guy. So like she's got a pretty casual angle. So her rock just has a little baby, slope on it. So she'll be kind of something like that, give or take. So she's not going to be, honestly, the way unintentionally, this dude's going to be kind of like a medium height off the ground. She's going to be pretty low off the ground. And then we'll have a high off the ground. which ran out of double tape, so I just had to stick him where I could get him to prime him. This dude's gonna be way up comparatively, anyways. But I really like the way that these the cork looks. I think it is just night and day better than the flight stands or the smoke plumes that I went with for my ARC troopers. I don't hate the smoke plumes, but I don't love the smoke plumes. Okay, so I can still see that some of that is drying, but I think we can get to the leather without an issue. So if you've watched any of this, you probably know what color I'm using for the leather. That's my favorite Fire Drake speed paint. I think it is just the perfect leather color. And the way that it dries is nice and satisfying. It's typically pretty easy to put on. It doesn't have the same weird kind of chunky consistency that some of the colors seem to. So, still use it. Now I've had it be a little weird sometimes, so there's definitely some user error, but I'm trying not to get brown all over the handguns, even though they're so kind of hidden. I don't think it's going to matter too much. And we're just going to paint right over these little canisters. We'll come back and pick those out with some silver later. Trying to see if you can see. And you know what? I can't see after a tiny little bit of effort, so I'm not even going to worry about it. And I'm just going to go ahead and fill that in. Okay. one of these days, I'll try a proper slap chop paint job instead of doing a zenithal with the airbrush, which I do think when using speed paints or anything like that, a zenithal is definitely visible, but I think a more dramatic zenithal would probably serve me a little bit better in some cases, because I do feel like it's kind of hard for it to come through at times. And that is one thing about the slap chop stuff, is that it is high contrast and not very gradual. Okay, I think that's all of our leather. Nice. Love, love, love that fire drake color. So good. If I had to pick like a standout color of the set, the big set of speed paints that I bought, fire drake's probably up there. Fire drake and bony matter, honestly, these two colors are like almost perfect for what I use them for. I think bony matter is a perfect bone color, and it also dries and looks really good. And then this is like a perfect leather, which I didn't even know was a brown color until I did my little cap color tests. Ruddy fur is also similar, but it's a little more red. It has more of that red tone. But fire drake will forever be my leather as long as I can use it. Check, 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 check. Okay, we're still good. Make sure we didn't die. Okay. I'll go ahead and hit these guns while I'm thinking about it. And just because I don't know why, to be honest, I just decided to do Gravelord Gray for the guns this time around instead of black. I think my original logic there was to differentiate them slightly from the suits. Don't know if that's really necessary, but that's where we're at. Also, side note, is given the situation with the room downstairs, which, as you could assume, is my recording space for tabletop stuff. I don't know if I'm going to be doing any sort of tabletop stream this Thursday. I could set everything, well, it's kind of a big mess, to be honest, outside that room now, because I had to move everything out of it. But I'm kind of looking into seeing if I have a way to set up something small and temporary in the room that I'm at right now. Just to get through hopefully Thursday, and hopefully it'll be solved and I'll put back together by next Thursday, but I'm not going to make any promises there either because it's not entirely up to me. It's going to be a bunch of people participating in this to get it all fixed. So I don't know about this Thursday, but hopefully there will be something this Thursday if I can figure it out. Oh yeah, the tips of the gun sticking out in these. I could go through the Age of Sigmar starter box, maybe. That is played on a pretty small thing, so that could work. I don't think I could do special operations because it's a 3 foot by 3 foot, and I don't know. One, I don't know if I have that kind of space. Two, I definitely don't have a standing table that big, so I'm gonna have to do this sitting down. So I need to be able to reach all the stuff. So Age of Sigmar might be the best option. I'll have to look through that rule book and stuff and see if that's something that I want to do or not. But just so there's a little bit of a heads up for Thursday anyways. Okay, so that is mostly dry on the head now. I almost feel like it would be easier to base coat this whole sword black and then see if I can't get like a little bit of real reflection on it, just to get an idea of kind of what I'd be working with. I have never painted non-metallic metal, so but I do need to pick a color for this cape, and I feel like a gray is the most obvious, but that is incredibly boring. Let's see if I can find any reference here. Night Owl cape. Yeah, I mean, I guess we could go black, go a little bit of a high contrast maybe. Let's see. That doesn't have anything. I don't know. I mean, I guess I could go black for the cape. Kind of wanted something a little bit more out there. Honestly, I don't hate white. So maybe we go with like a light gray. And maybe try to put like a blue stripe in it or something. That might be something. Try and get this back on track. There we go. Let's do that actually. With holy white, because holy white definitely a little more gray. Let's see. Let's see where this gets us. But yeah, like if I could get like a diagonal blue stripe in there somewhere, I don't even know if. Well, I don't know if that would read super well, but. I'm not going to bother trying to paint the bottom side of this cape. So it's just not worth the effort. But I do need to figure out. It's kind of like the idea of a stripe, kind of like that. Or do I just put it, for simplicity's sake, put it along the bottom bottom edge. That might make more sense than trying to make it diagonal, even though if it was diagonal it'd be a little bit more dynamic. I just don't know. I feel like it would look real weird, so I might just try to do it along the bottom since there's a a straight there to deal with. I think I am gonna base coat this sword black just so I have something to work with. Again, I have never painted non-metallic anything, so this is winging it, but hopefully I'll be able to get kind of an idea of where some reflections fall with this thing being black. It'll be a little bit of an easier thing to work with. So again, the blade edge is tiny.